team performance-wise, it's been bad in Baltimore this season. But in terms of individual players, well, it's kind of been a mixed bag. Let's talk about who's been good, who's been bad lately in the lineup and in the bullpen. That's coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Friday, May 30th, 2025, and welcome back into the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb. And coming up on today's episode, we're going to do the latest version of the Orioles Bullpen Trust Power Rankings and the latest version of the Orioles Hitter Trust Power Rankings. I'll group all those guys into three categories: trust, maybe trust, and don't trust, based on how do I feel when that hitter comes to the plate? How confident am I in him coming up big? How do I feel when that reliever comes into the game? How confident am I of him putting up a zero? And finally, at the end, we'll preview this weekend series against one of the only teams who've been worse than the Orioles this season. But that's all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast, which is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So no Orioles game on Thursday. They got the off day after dropping 2 of 3 to the Cardinals in a rain-soaked series. They are back in action tonight against the White Sox, which we will get to at the end of the show. But it gives me a chance to do what I generally do every couple of Fridays, which is my Bullpen Trust Power Rankings, but something I did a couple of times in 2024, and I don't think have broken out yet in the 2025 season, is the Hitter Trust Power Rankings as well. So here's how it works. I split all the current hitters on the roster, all 13 of them, into 3 categories: trust, maybe trust, and don't trust. The hitters in the trust category are the guys where when they come up to the plate, whether it's a big situation, whether it's bases empty, 2 outs, I am expecting them to at least have a good at-bat, not get a hit more times than not, because that's not how baseball works, but have a good at-bat, and I'm confident they're going to fight up there and give the Orioles a serious chance of extending the inning, getting the big hit, giving the team the lead, driving the run in, whatever it may be. Maybe trust is kind of a mixed bag. It's players who I think sometimes might do that, sometimes might not. Maybe it's players who have had a shorter leash in the big leagues. We haven't seen enough from them, but there's been sparks. Maybe it's guys who are usually in that trust category, but have been slumping a little bit lately. It can be a mixed bag and maybe trust. And then there is don't trust. Those are the guys who, when they go up to the plate, I'm expecting little to nothing when they are in the batter's box. So let's start with the hitters in the trust category. And currently, I have 3 of them on this Orioles roster. Number 1 is no surprise. That is Ryan O'Hearn. And when I do these rankings, I generally look at stats from the last 2 weeks. So stats dating back to May 15th, just to look at, hey, what have you done for me lately? Am I trusting you right now in this moment? This is less of a full season look at how they've done their first 2 months and more of, hey, how do I feel last night, 2 nights ago, 3 nights ago when they're coming up to the plate? And Ryan O'Hearn has been great all season. He's 3rd in baseball entering play Thursday with a 184 WRC+. Only Aaron Judge and Freddie Freeman have been better. O'Hearn this week passed Ohtani in that ranking. He passed Shohei Ohtani, who sits in 4th. And he's been one of the only Orioles who is producing with runners in scoring position. He's got a 12% walk rate, which is really high, and a really low 16% strikeout rate, one of the lowest on the team. He's mashing fastballs, hitting .398 with a .636 slug against fastballs. He's hit much better against lefties. And it's really a great AB every time he is up there, and that's why he's in this category. But specifically the last 2 weeks, Ryan O'Hearn has been a top 5 hitter in baseball over the last 2 weeks as well, and has been red hot. In that time, since May 15th, O'Hearn is hitting .442, .532 on base, .615 slugging. It is a .234 WRC+ that O'Hearn is sporting. Now, I've seen complaints about, okay, why is Ryan O'Hearn hitting 5th right now? That's kind of where he's settled in. Really, for the last couple of years, he's hit either 3rd or 4th every time he's been in the order. The reason for him being 5th, I think, is just because of lineup construction. The Orioles like Holiday in the 1 spot. They like Gunnar Henderson in the 3 spot. And if you hit O'Hearn 2nd or 4th, you put yourself in a tough spot and make yourself really susceptible to left-handed relievers. Really good lefty relievers can come in. Say you go Holiday, Gunnar Henderson, O'Hearn, top three. Those are the best three hitters on this Orioles team right now, so you put him at the top of the lineup. You get a good lefty reliever out there, he's got a huge advantage when he comes in, top of the eighth inning against the top of the Orioles lineup. And the O's aren't going to pinch hit there. And even though some of those guys hit lefties well, it's a tough spot for them. You don't want to do that to your team late in games. So that's why they split it up. Unfortunately, the righties that they're putting in the 2 and 4 holes, the Adley Rutschmans, the Ramon Ariases, the Ryan Mountcastles, are not producing in those spots. And it's making it hard to watch O'Hearn fifth. Hopefully those things will change a little bit. But yeah, Ryan O'Hearn has been quietly, not for Orioles fans, but quietly for Major League Baseball, one of the best hitters in the league this year. And he deserves to be in the trust category. Next up is Gunnar Henderson. Hasn't been great the last 2 weeks, hitting just 200 with an 82 WRC plus, but he's walking much more at a 14% walk rate. He's still got a 53% hard hit rate, which is elite in the last 2 weeks. He's smashing the ball. He would really need to just completely tank out for me to move Gunnar Henderson below the trust category. His big issue is he's been struggling against left-handed pitching this year. He was awesome against lefties last year, which is why he was in MVP contention. That has not happened so far this year. So that's something to watch. But again, it would take a lot more than this for me to move Henderson out of trust. And the last guy, of course, in the trust category is Jackson Holliday, who's been doing a great job, red hot for this Orioles team, is showing why he was the number one prospect in baseball. Over the last 2 weeks, is hitting .323 with a .532 slugging, a 147 WRC plus, and a team best 54% hard hit rate over the past 2 weeks. The only thing he's not doing is walking. He does not have a single walk in the last 2 weeks. We know he has a good batter's eye. It's something he came up through the minor leagues with, but he's doing everything else right. So really at this point, when he starts walking, that's when he elevates to stardom level. He's becoming a really good major league player right now. When he starts to walk again, which I know will happen with Jackson Holliday, that's when he ascends to that next level we know he can get to. And he's basically taken over the leadoff spot. Now, he could give it up if he really just doesn't walk and that on-base percentage stays fairly low. But when he starts walking again, it's going to be his for certain for a long time. Then we move into the maybe trust category where I have 4 hitters. And the first one is Adley Rutschman, who over the past 2 weeks has been hitting better, a 106 WRC plus, a 10% walk rate. He was swinging the bat way better before he got hit by that foul ball in the mask on Sunday in Boston. Missed Monday and Tuesday, came back Wednesday, went 0 for 5, didn't look 100% at that point. So hopefully, though, he can get back to it. The ABs have been much better lately, but we also can't discount how rough the stats have been overall for Adley this year. So that's why he kind of sits in the middle in that maybe trust category, but he was certainly heating up before he took that foul ball. Cedric Mullins, also in the maybe trust, also has a 106 WRC plus over the last 2 weeks, but it's come with a 35% strikeout rate in that span. His strikeouts have spiked. Now, Mullins was one of the best players in Major League Baseball in April. Then he started May 1 for 31 to begin the month. So it's certainly been a roller coaster, but he's picked it up since then. He's turned back into a good hitter. He's still nothing like he was last month, but he's coming up with some big swings still for the Orioles, and that kind of settles him into maybe trust. Pushing up into maybe trust, a guy I didn't think I'd have here this year is Dylan Carlson. He's been a really productive hitter over the last 2 weeks, with the injuries to Cowser, Laureano, O'Neill, Heston Kjerstad doing nothing basically. Carlson's had to step in and be basically an everyday outfielder for this team over the past couple of weeks. And in that span, he's been great, hitting 296, 321, 556 slash line, good for a 150 WRC plus. He finally started driving the baseball, hitting fastballs. He homered in back-to-back games over the weekend. He had 2 more hits on Wednesday night. I want to see more before I would jump him into the trust category, but Carlson's doing enough where it's not hurting the team that he's playing every day right now. He's one of the few hitters who's actually producing. So if he does it more and keeps getting this chance, which is going to be tough as Colton Cowser and Ramon Laureano get close to returning from the injured list, but if he keeps it up, he could, maybe next time I do this, he could be in that trust category. And the last guy in maybe trust is Ramon Arias. Over the last 2 weeks, he's been hitting 289, not with a lot of power, basically been a league average hitter at a 98 WRC plus, but a very low 17% strikeout rate in that stretch. He's taking good ABs. He's not striking out, but the reason why he's not in trust is because he's not hitting for power. He's got the lowest slugging percentage of his career at 375 on the season so far. I mean, when he comes up, I feel good about him maybe drawing a walk. I feel good about him poking a single into right field, which is always nice, but he doesn't have that power ceiling, which he's flashed before in previous years with the Orioles. If he starts to show that, he's up there in trust, but right now that is what puts him in maybe trust. So that leaves us with 6 hitters in the don't trust category. The first one, unfortunately, falling here is Emmanuel Rivera. If I would have done this a week or two ago, he would have been in maybe trust, maybe all the way up even in trust. But over the past 2 weeks, Rivera's shine has kind of worn off, right? He was a surprising jolt for the Orioles offense late last year. They called him up this year with the injuries to Westberg and Arias and Kobe Mayo not doing anything, and he started hitting again. That's kind of run out. The last 2 weeks, he's hitting 143. It's a 24 WRC plus. He had a nice run, but he's not even hitting for average now, and he wasn't really ever hitting for power this year. He only has 2 extra base hits in the majors all season. He had a 2-double game a few weeks back. Not giving you much anymore at the moment, which is why I've talked about, like, Jordan Westberg played in his first rehab game in AAA on Thursday. If Westberg comes back next week, it's going to be an Emmanuel Rivera DFA. I know it was fun for a while, but Westberg is just so much better and just fits the roster better. And yeah, Rivera's time is coming to a close shortly with the Orioles, I would think. Next guy in don't trust is Jorge Mateo, who's been swinging the bat better. Last 2 weeks, hitting 286. He's up to an 89 WRC plus in that stretch, but it's still with a super high 32% strikeout rate. Now, because of all the injuries, he's actually finally playing more. He's getting more hits, but his strikeout percentage is way too high. He's not playing every day, but he's in there like every other day at this point, especially when Mullins missed those 3 games out of 4. But even at a 286 average in the last 2 weeks, you can't get me to move Mateo above don't trust. It's not a good at-bat that he takes. I have zero confidence in him whenever he comes to the plate, even though he's dropped in a few more singles than usual. Next up in don't trust is Ryan Mountcastle. I mean, the average is at 255 the last 2 weeks. He's sparked a couple of doubles, but it's 12 strikeouts to 1 walk. It's still just a 76 WRC plus in that stretch. And this stretch has been better than most of the season has been. Mountcastle's been kind of a disaster this year, even with the number of hits he's gotten in that Cardinals series. Like, he's chasing everything. He's pulling the ball in the air, but he's still not hitting for power. So he made a change from last year, but it didn't fix him. He is just not fun to watch at all at the plate. And I'm getting a lot of pushback and a lot of complaints. Why is Adley hitting second? Why is Adley hitting second? And yeah, I think in a perfect world with Adley playing like this, he probably gets moved down in the lineup. But the Orioles are so injured right now that it's kind of okay that Adley's still hitting second. It is not okay that Ryan Mountcastle is hitting fourth when he is out there. That is by far the worst part of this Orioles lineup. He is giving them nothing. I'm not even sure he should be playing right now, let alone in the lineup hitting fourth. Like, who knows if Kobe Mayo would give them something better, but this could be a time to try it. It is rough to watch Mountcastle right now. And speaking of being rough to watch, the next guy in don't trust is Heston Kjerstad. Over the last 2 weeks, unplayable. 132 average, 10 strikeouts, 1 walk, a -2 WRC plus. He's chasing everything. Everything he hits, it's a rollover ground ball to second base. Hitting the ball on the ground. Just has no plan at the plate right now. It's really rough to watch. He's been horrendous defensively too in the outfield. I mean, you kind of are coming to a question here because, again, like, Cowser and Laureano are going to be back off the injured list soon. Tyler O'Neill is coming back after them as well. You've got the Dylan Beavers and Judd Fabians of the world kind of knocking on the door in AAA to get to the big leagues. And you look at Kjerstad and you're like, this is one of our top young guys. We still think long-term there's a big-time place for him in this lineup. But it's just so bad right now, not just on offense, but also he's a negative on defense when he's out there. And you don't want to clog up DH with him not hitting. You kind of have to make that decision. Again, you're 19-36. I think at this point we're kind of feeling playoffs are out the window for 2025. So that makes it a little bit of a different call. Do you let him play it out and try and figure it out at the major league level? Or would a 2 or 3 week reset in Norfolk help him because it's just so bad right now? That's something the Orioles have to figure out. And I think it's so bad that, especially with Cowser and Laureano getting back and the Orioles needing to make roster moves for them some point in the next couple of weeks, Kjerstad has options. I think it's the easy thing to just send him down and get him to try to figure it out. And then the last 2 guys in don't trust are the Orioles' second and third catchers right now in Chadwick Tromp and Maverick Handley. They have 2 total hits between them. They're not here to hit the ball. They are in don't trust category as hitters. So those are the hitters I am trusting and not trusting. Let's move it to the bullpen side. Which relievers am I trusting, maybe trusting, or not trusting? I'll tell you who coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is brought to you by Trade Coffee. Now, let's be real. Coffee isn't just a drink. It's a ritual, a lifeline, and the thing that gets you from half asleep to fully functioning. And if it's that essential, why settle for anything less than amazing? That is where Trade Coffee comes in. Trade is the #1 coffee destination in the US, delivering fresh, incredible coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Whether you're a cold brew fan or a pour over purist, they've got a roast that you will love. And if you get your coffee and the first match isn't perfect, Trade will replace it for free until they get it just right. And right now, Trade is exclusively offering our customers 50% off your 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/lockedonmlb. That's trade.com, trade.com/lockedonmlb for 50% off your 1-month trial. Again, that is drinktrade.com/lockedonmlb. So from the Hitter Trust Power Rankings, we move to the Bullpen Trust Power Rankings for the Orioles. It works the same way. I've got trust, maybe trust, and don't trust as my 3 categories. The relievers I'm trusting are guys, hey, they come in high leverage spot late in the game to hold a lead. I'm confident they're going to hold that lead and put up a 0. The maybe trust guys are, maybe they used to be in trust. They've struggled a little bit lately, so I pushed them down. Maybe they are a little shaky at times, so not quite in trust. Or maybe they're new and they've had a couple of good outings, but I'm not ready to put them in trust yet. They can, multiple ways to find yourself in the maybe trust category. And then in the don't trust category is, I don't want to see this guy anywhere near high leverage. I'm assuming it's going to go wrong if he ends up there. So in the trust category, surprisingly, because the Orioles bullpen has faltered a bit lately, mostly because of overuse, but I do have 5 of their 8 relievers currently in the trust category. The first one is Yennier Cano. In the last 2 weeks, 5 appearances, 2 runs, 2 hits, 4 Ks, a walk and a hit batter over 4 1/3 innings. He had that little blip, right, where he had 3 straight outings with at least 1 earned run allowed, where he kind of lost his command. Well, he has gotten that command back. He's retired the last 9 batters he's faced with 4 strikeouts in that stretch. The sinker, the changeup, the slider are all dancing right now. He's looking like vintage Cano, and he's back into that trust category. I've also got Gregory Soto in trust the last couple of weeks, 7 appearances, 5 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 6 Ks, and 1 walk. Last couple of outings, he's thrown some of the best sliders we have seen from him, and he's far and away the #1 go-to left-hander in the bullpen right now for Tony Mansolino. I'm liking how he's throwing the ball right now. Again, he's not a perfect left-handed reliever, but I've got him in the trust category. Next up is Andrew Kittredge, who since being activated off the injured list, 4 appearances, 4 innings, 1 run, 6 hits, 6 Ks, and 3 walks. He did look a little shaky on Wednesday in that last outing against the Cardinals, but overall he's been good since coming off the injured list. He's a veteran reliever who's been great for years. He's going to have to show me a lot more shakiness to pull him out of the trust category. Brian Baker is also still in trust. Last 2 weeks for him, 7 appearances, 6 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs, 10 Ks to 1 walk, but he has allowed 2 homers. Kind of being skewed by the blow-up outing he had on Tuesday. He allowed 3 earned runs in the 8th inning in that game. Just the second time all year he's allowed multiple runs, and the first time he's allowed 3 runs in a game. He's been arguably the Orioles' best reliever all season until that last outing. So I'm not going to let one Brian Baker outing, when he also got some pretty bad outfield defense in that one on Tuesday, change what I think about him. He's been great this year. He's been huge for the Orioles bullpen. I mean, before that blow-up outing, he had thrown up a 0 in 8 of his last 9 outings. Like, he's still pitching really well. I still trust him in a big spot. This one, I wavered back and forth, my final guy in the trust category, but I ended up putting him in trust, and that is Seranthony Dominguez. In his last 8 appearances, 7 2/3 innings, 6 runs, 7 hits, 12 Ks, 5 walks, and a home run allowed. I was wavering back and forth the entire time I'm doing my notes between trust and maybe trust for Dominguez. What actually put him over the edge is the fact that he's kind of the Orioles' #2 closer right now, it seems, behind Bautista for Tony Mansolino. So that pushed him over the edge for me. I mean, he had that awful outing that kind of blew the game in Boston on Friday, but since then he had the huge 5-out save against the Red Sox Saturday. Then he had 2 perfect and frankly dominant outings in that series against the Cardinals this week. Those outings he had on Monday and Wednesday against St. Louis is some of the best I've ever seen Dominguez pitch in an Oriole uniform, following up that amazing 5-out save that he had on Saturday when the Orioles needed him most. So because of all of that, even though it's been shaky and there's been a lot of walks, the stuff is looking good. The command's been better. He's really trusting that new splitter against lefties, which is helping him get lefties out. That allowed him to sneak into the bottom of the trust category. Now we move on to maybe trust. You may be thinking, Connor, where is the mountain The mountain's in maybe trust for me right now. Another one that I wavered on, I almost put in trust. Last 2 weeks, 5 outings, 4 and 2/3 innings, 4 runs, 4 hits, 4 Ks, and 5 walks in that stretch. He had that horrible stretch of 4 straight outings with at least 1 earned run allowed. Since then, he's thrown 2 scoreless innings, so he's kind of pulling it back together. They weren't the cleanest of innings. At least one of them wasn't. I need to see one more clean save for Bautista. Like if he goes out there tonight and the O's are up 5-3 and he throws a 1-2-3 ninth, bump him right back up into trust. But it was just that little blip. He had that really bad outing in the Milwaukee series, and he wasn't looking great. I want to see him get back to the Felix we saw really rolling through early May, and then I'll get him back in trust. But right now, he sits in maybe trust. And then the other reliever in maybe trust, I have just 2 of them, is Matt Bowman, who was recalled to the roster on Wednesday and gave the Orioles 2 innings of 1-run ball out of the pen in Wednesday's loss. He was really good early in the year. Remember, Matt Bowman was in the bullpen very early in the season, and he was pitching great in kind of long relief and weird roles, but the Orioles just kind of overused him. He started to get tired. He had a couple of really bad outings, and the O's ended up DFAing him. Now, he did clear waivers, and he accepted his assignment to AAA, knowing he'd probably be back with the O's, and that is what happened on Wednesday. I want to see more again before I would think about moving him up to trust, but it was good enough Wednesday. It looked like the vintage Bowman we saw pitch well down the stretch for the O's last year and here early in 2025. Then I'm going to throw him in my maybe trust category. I also just have a soft spot for Bowman. It's such a funky delivery. You don't really see that much funk from righties out of the bullpen generally. So I like watching Matt Bowman pitch. It's fun. As long as he's not getting rocked like we saw a couple of times early this year, it's certainly fun to watch him pitch. So that leaves one pitcher in the don't trust category. And I didn't immediately throw this guy in the don't trust category. Actually, when I initially put down my notes, I had this guy in maybe trust, but I ended up moving him somewhat because I felt like, well, the Orioles bullpen has had some struggles. There's no way they can have none of their 8 relievers in the don't trust. I threw Keegan Aiken as my only reliever in don't trust. Last 2 weeks, 5 outings, 5 innings, 2 runs, 5 hits, 5 Ks, 2 walks, a hit batter, and a home run allowed. It's been interesting, right? Last year, Keegan Aiken had that amazing season, a 3.32 ERA, pitched a lot of innings, and it came with a 2.99 FIP, which basically means he had a 3-something ERA, but he actually even pitched under the hood better than that. Like, he was great. This year, he has a 3.20 ERA. So you look at that and you say he might be even better than last year, but it comes with a 4.06 FIP, meaning under the hood, things are very different. It's not nearly as good as it was last year. And you don't have to look that far under the hood to see it. The strikeouts are down and the walks are up from 2024. That is not a good combination. He's been super inconsistent. He was real bad in that last outing we saw him on Tuesday, and he's not had a clean outing since May 18th. And I think the big thing is his fastball. That 4-seam fastball for Aiken, that is his bread and butter. Yes, he's got the slider. Yes, he's got the changeup, which he certainly goes to get hitters out. But that fastball is really everything for Aiken. It's usually 94. It's got that big induced vertical break, which kind of gives it that almost rising look that we talk about, which makes it super hard for hitters to hit, even though it's not premium velocity. Well, the velo is down closer to 93 this year, and the IVB on the fastball is also down. The stuff is down on the fastball. It is just not the same pitch it was last season, and that is concerning for him. And it's especially concerning because you've DFA'd Cionel Perez. You only have 2 lefties in the bullpen. It's Soto and Aiken. And while Soto's been pitching well, we know he tends to have some bad stretches at times, and your only other lefty is Aiken, who is the only guy I'm putting in don't trust. The Orioles need another left-handed reliever, but they're also, again, 19 and 36, so it's not like they're going to be buyers at the deadline to get one. They more so need to find someone who can be a good lefty reliever for them. And here's what I'm going to say, what could be interesting by the end of the year. Now, Trevor Rogers has absolutely earned more chances in the rotation with that outing in Boston over the weekend. But if eventually he gets more starts and is not working out as well, look for the Orioles to potentially move Rogers into the bullpen in the second half and see if he could be potentially a weapon there heading into 2026. But that's the Bullpen Trust Power Rankings and the Hitter Trust Power Rankings. Let me know. Leave a comment right here on the Locked On Orioles YouTube page. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe as well. How did I do? Am I right? Am I wrong? How would you rank trust-wise the hitters and the relievers currently at this moment on this Orioles team as they come off the off day and then back to baseball again tonight? Listen. The Orioles are very bad, but this weekend they get a chance to play one of the only teams that is even worse. Previewing Orioles and White Sox to finish off the show. That's coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for the extra edge, their free Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's at supplyhouse.com. So we finish up today's episode and this week on the show by previewing the weekend series for the Orioles. As I mentioned, there's only been a couple of teams who have been worse than the O's this year, and one of them is, unsurprisingly, the team that basically set themselves up as one of the worst teams in baseball history in 2024. They're not as bad this year, but they're still pretty bad, and that is the Chicago White Sox are coming to town. And again, I've already pretty much declared this Orioles season from a playoff perspective over at 19-36. I don't see a chance. But there are still things you need to do as a team with some self-respect. And if you don't at least win 2 out of 3 in this series at home against the White Sox, you drop to another new low level. If the Orioles lose this series this weekend, that is going to be one of the more depressing Locked On Orioles episodes coming up on Monday. At the very least, you got to have some sort of respect for yourself, like some sort of shame, and at least win this series. Like, when they played the Angels earlier this month, it was like, wow, the Orioles are terrible, but you can't lose a series to the Angels. And luckily they went in there and they took 2 of 3 from Anaheim. Here's another one of those. At the very least, you cannot lose a series to the 18-38 White Sox, who just lost 2 of 3 at Citi Field against the Mets. And now they take on this Orioles team. It begins tonight at 7:05, Orioles and White Sox. This White Sox team, not a good offense. 26th in team WRC plus at 83, 26th in runs, 23rd in strikeout percentage, 29th in slugging. Now they are 12th in walk rate, so they get on base a little bit, but they don't hit for power. They don't put runs across the plate. They strike out a lot. It's not great. Now, 2 guys who have been red hot lately, Mike Tauchman and our old friend Austin Slater. Both were recently activated off the injured list and placed back into the White Sox outfield, and they have both been swinging it well. So I'm going to need a standing ovation for Austin Slater tonight at Oriole Park. And Miguel Vargas, who was kind of a former top prospect cast away by the Dodgers, didn't go great last year in Chicago. He's been really good this year, a 118 WRC plus on the year, and he's been red hot over the past 2 weeks. And then Chase Mydroff, their kind of slap-hitting rookie shortstop. He's a good contact hitter who's really producing as well. On the flip side, Luis Robert, their star center fielder, has been terrible. And Andrew Vaughn, who's been their first baseman for 5 years now, he just got optioned to AAA because he has been so bad on a bad White Sox team. Yeah, it's not a very good offense. The bullpen is not much better. 4.97 bullpen ERA is 25th in Major League Baseball. They have the second most walks allowed among all bullpens. You look through this pen, they've honestly got like one good reliever. Left-hander Brandon Eisert has been pretty good. He'll get that, Jackson Holliday, Gunnar Henderson, Ryan O'Hearn pocket, maybe in all 3 games. Otherwise, this bullpen. And they are also 22nd in starting pitcher ERA. And the first starting pitcher they'll send out there for the Friday night game at 7:05 tonight is the rookie right-hander Sean Burke. He a Terp, the University of Maryland graduate. Sean Burke, who holds a special place in my heart. As you know, I've talked about it a little bit on this show. When I was in college at Maryland, I was the radio play-by-play broadcaster for Maryland's baseball team. And my senior year, Sean Burke was on this Terps team as a freshman. Now, he did not play. He was recovering from Tommy John surgery, so he didn't pitch all year. He pitched the next 2 years, turned into an ace, and was, I believe, a 3rd-round pick by the White Sox after that. Got to the big leagues late last year, and then was named the White Sox opening day starter this season. Now, I'm super excited to watch him pitch in Baltimore. It hasn't gone great this year. 4.33 ERA for Burke, low strikeout numbers, high walk numbers, but 6 innings of 1-run ball his last time out against the Rangers. You'll see a fastball at 94, good curveball combination. It actually has made him better against left-handed hitters than righties this year, but excited to watch Sean Burke pitch. And he'll go up against Zach Eflin, who is having a rough stretch. Back-to-back starts, allowing 4 or more earned runs the first 2 times he's ever done that with the Orioles. His mechanics look kind of off in his last start last week against Boston, so hopefully against this bad White Sox lineup, he can figure it back out. Saturday's game at 4:05. Funny enough, it's a Grayson Rodriguez bobblehead when he is still very much on the injured list, but right-handed pitcher Davis Martin goes for the White Sox against Dean Kramer for the O's. Martin's been good this year, 3.45 ERA. He doesn't strike anyone out, but he also doesn't walk anyone, so you'll see a lot of balls in play. It's a good four-seamer at 94. It's a good cutter, but all his other breaking stuff, curveball, slider, changeup, get rocked. So look for him to go mostly fastball cutter. And he has gone 6+ innings, 2 earned runs or fewer in each of his last 3 starts. He's doing it a different way, but he's certainly getting it done. And Dean Kramer, 5 1/3 scoreless, his last start against Boston, looking to build off that on Saturday. And then on Sunday, Adrian Hauser, the right-hander, goes for the White Sox, and Charlie Morton goes for the Orioles. Hauser, who was briefly in AAA with the Orioles last year when they were looking for any kind of pitching depth, just signed. He was on a minor league deal somewhere. He opted out. He signed with the White Sox 2 weeks ago. He's made 2 starts with the Chicago and hasn't allowed a run. 12 scoreless innings, 5 hits, 8 Ks, and 4 walks. It's a sinker at 94 that gets a lot of grounders, and his off-speed stuff is getting swings and misses. Not something Hauser used to do when he was in the big leagues for a while with the Brewers, was get swing and miss, but he's kind of getting a little bit of it this year to go along with the grounders. And then there's Charlie Morton, who made that spot start on Monday and had his best start as an Oriole, 6 innings of 2-run ball against the Cardinals. We talked about how the O's had a decision to make, right? They could either leave Morton in the rotation after that good start, or they could put him back in the bullpen and they could bring back Trevor Rogers, who threw 6 1/3 scoreless against the Red Sox over the weekend. At least for now, they've decided to leave Charlie Morton in the bullpen, leave him in the rotation and give him the ball on Sunday. That doesn't mean we still won't see Trevor Rogers come back soon enough. And I would have rather given this ball to Rogers again, but it will be Charlie Morton taking the mound on Sunday. And then I will be back on Monday recapping everything you need to know from this series between the Orioles and the White Sox. And hopefully it is a series win, because I feel like my tone's been already a little sad in the last couple of weeks of podcasts. It will probably reach a whole new level if the Orioles drop a series to this White Sox team at home this weekend. But either way, I'm back with an episode on Monday. Until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.